Thank you, everybody, for joining. This is the top 5 of the Presidio Bitcoin inaugural hackathon. We have, please. For the last 24 hours, we've been hacking here at Presidio Bitcoin on the floor, just doing whatever we got to do to get our products built, sleeping on the ground. We've had some amazing sponsors and partners be with us to help teach us about the tech. Yes, that is helpful. Human Rights Foundation, Lightspark, Block, FewSats, Highbind Ventures. Also, we have Albi and Lexi. Another round of applause. So what you're tuning in now for is, for the last hour or so, we had a science fair. So all of the teams who are building stuff over the last 24 hours had a chance to present to the judges. They had 3 minutes to pitch their idea, and the judges selected the top 5. And now the top 5 are going to have 5 minutes to pitch their project to the judges. The judges are going to have 3 minutes to respond with questions. And after that happens, we're going to select first, second, third, and also crowd favorite. Now, crowd favorite, everyone in the audience here can help. Everyone in the audience remotely can also help. And I'm going to invite D++ up to tell us a little bit more about this prize category.
Great. All right, just like Austin said, crowd favorite is going to be chosen by all of you here in person, as well as everybody watching around the world on the live stream. You're going to cast your vote over the Lightning Network itself. Now, each vote counts as one vote, regardless of how many sats you send to the team. However, each team, each of the top 5 teams, gets to keep all of the sats they receive from the voting process. So if you feel moved to, please be generous with your sats. The team with the most votes, not necessarily the most sats, at the end of the voting round will receive the crowd favorite category with a bonus prize of 1,000 USD. That's pretty much it. So you can vote using the team's name, the votes are coming in already. We haven't even seen the teams, but hey, the testing works. You can vote by going to pbhackathon.com/vote. using a Lightning address or clicking the team's name and paying a Lightning invoice. Very easy, works with any Lightning wallet that anybody has. That's it.
Awesome. So thank you, Dee. We have 5 teams to get through tonight, so we're going to get started right now. Our first team coming up is Unstuck AI. I'll invite you to the floor, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Well, we are Unstuck AI. Want to just first thank the Presidio Bitcoin for this awesome event. Dustin and I actually just met less than 24 hours ago, and we've really enjoyed working on this project. My name is Matthew Ball. I'm a product designer at GE, and I'm also the creative director at the Bitcoin Layer.
I'm Dustin Dannenhauer. My background is in AI research. I'm currently an OpenSats grantee working at the intersection of AI and Nostr and data vending machines. So we're going to talk about the problem. There are a lot of AI agents. Goose is a super notable example that are becoming more and more powerful, but they still have quite a number of problems they can run into, especially if you're trying to have autonomous sovereign versions of these. So they can run into CAPTCHAs when they're trying to sign up for legitimate services. They can themselves have bug fixes. They might need code reviews from humans. They might need writing help or assistance to proofread just to make sure for that whenever it really matters. And the problem is that them by themselves often still run into problems. So the solution that we've developed here at this hackathon is both an MCP server that you can just add into Goose or any agent that supports MCP. And what it does is whenever it gets stuck, it can, especially this is focused on visual tasks, but it could be extended, takes a screenshot, it posts a job request for help on Nostr, and then any human who is available can make a bid for sats. The AI can pay sats, and the human can give the help. It can say, hey, you should click on this spot, you should drag it, this is where the button is, etc. And then we've also built a GUI for humans to go view these tasks, make a bid, etc. So there's a long precedent actually in AI research of trying to develop AI that accepts its limitations and knows it can ask for help. This is just some example of robots like 20 years ago at Carnegie Mellon that were pretty autonomous and could do a lot of things. They have no arms. So they can't really manipulate the world. What would they do? They'd go to an elevator, they'd ask for help to go up or down, they would ask for someone to deposit something into their basket or take something out, and they were able to actually achieve quite a number of useful things. We want to bring this to LLM-based agents.
So we're going to do a quick demo here via video.
It is supposed to have sound. I can just talk over it real quick. So basically, you can run the MCP server locally. That's what's happening here. You can clone the GitHub repo. Then if you go into Goose, you can run Goose with access to this locally running MCP server. And then we're going to give Goose a task where basically we're going to say, for this demo, we're going to say, take a screenshot and ask a human for help on how to open Discord. I need to open the Discord application on my computer, and I'm just having trouble with that. We also give a little extra context for how to do screenshots. Turns out Goose, there's a lot of ways you can try and take a screenshot programmatically, and Goose will try, so this just kind of helps it go a little bit faster. So it's going to iterate here a little bit. It's going to run the command, take a screenshot, save it to a file, and then it's going to upload the file. We're using a CDN right now. We'd love to make it Blossom friendly later. And then it's basically going to post a Nostr job event. This is actually using data vending machine kinds, if that means anything to you, except instead of a computer doing it, it's human doing the work and getting paid. So now this is the UI. It shows we're going to load available tasks. And now this is showing the most recent task here in the top left. You can view the job as a user on the site. When you view the job, you can make a bid. And in this case, as long as it's under the budget that the AI has been set by the person using Goose, then the AI will consider doing it. And what we're seeing here, so we generated a Lightning invoice from the user using the browser extension. We submitted a Nostr event. This is a kind 7000 response. And then actually we see the AI has paid already the human. So I've already gotten my 11 sats. Now I need to fulfill my promise and actually do the work. So we built this little interface where you can click, you can double click, you can drag the mouse. It saves the coordinates. So it was pretty quick, but we actually had double clicked on the Discord symbol. This gets broadcast as a job result, goes back to the Goose agent in the MCP call. It is waiting, and in just a second, we'll see it pop up here. The very last step, which we didn't quite get to in this, but you can run basically an automation. There's a number of libraries to actually go and open Discord. But what we can see is that Goose has the coordinates right here, and Goose is able to keep running. So even if Goose had a separate tool, it could continue. So thank you, and you can find us on Nostr, and you can check out the GitHub repo.
Yeah, thank you all for your time and your consideration. Please help us get unstuck. And we're open for any questions from the judges.
Great presentation. What was the hardest challenge you had building this?
Neither of us are like front-end developers. We ran into some challenges just kind of vibe coding all the functionality. I think that when you're trying to do a bunch of Nostr interactions, we were kind of getting like some buttons wouldn't work and different threads. So we kind of ended up just solving it by adding more pages and trying to do less on any single page. That and yeah, I'd say that's the top one.
Could you easily add to this two things? One, Nostr reputation for the AI to pick out who it's actually going to choose to do the job. And could you also integrate the ability for us to, I guess, interact with other bots as well? So if there's another DVM it wants to farm something out to.
Yeah, so actually the way this is built right now, any kind 5109 event from anything will show up. So all of us in the room could be running Goose agents with this extension, and all of these would start populating on this UI. It's one of the beautiful things about Nostr. And the first part of your question was about reputation. So there's a lot of ways we could innovate here. My first thing is that I'd love to implement reviews so the AI could review the human's work. And the simplest way I would do that is to have some kind of like prompt look at the next few steps of the Goose agent and see, does it make progress or is it still very stuck? Again, that might not be perfect. You can imagine Web of Trust, a lot of other solutions too.
Well, let's get a round of applause for Unstuck AI.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Supersonic. Supersonic, please make your way up to the stage.
So I'm Austin. This is Casey. Over at this hackathon, we've been building this app we're calling Supersonic. It's an ad-free podcast player. It uses AI to go and pre-process the top 25 podcasts from each category and tag where ads are. This is an example of that. Casey?
Yeah, so we start with a transcript, and the transcript is time-coded. Based on that time code, we have the AI determine where it thinks the advertisements exist. Here's an example of what that schema looks like. It would be in an array where we have where the ad starts, and we have the start phrase that says, where the sentence begins in it and what it ends with. But the key information there is the start and time start and end time in milliseconds, and more on that later because that'll be very important.
So here's a live demo. Pray the demo gods are with us. So we're using Bitcoin Connect or Bitcoin Connection from the Albi team. Uses WebLN in the background. So I've got the Albi extension installed. I click this, lets me choose Albi Hub. I can choose. I'm using the Cloud Hub. Quickly can connect. Seamless. This connection is then stays active when I return to the to this app, and now I'm ready to zap my way through podcast ads.
Now, forgive some of the demo data here, but what we can see is based on this additional metadata, the value add here shows how much ad time is actually in this space. So that can tell us, hey, when we're trying to evaluate the, how much money or time are we willing to part with, or attention space. This at least gives us a metric to work with. Now, if we start actually playing an item, what we see here is those orange segments right there represent where the ads are. Now you can see that there's some back-to-back-to-back ads. Those are processed as separate ads. In theory, maybe for a next version, those could be grouped as like an ad segment. But what this effectively does is it tells us as we're approaching the ad here, we see the countdown of how long until we reach the ad here. So we got 10 seconds. And what's going to happen is we've already connected our wallet, and we're going to have the option to, when the ad hits, we see it just woke up and it said, hey, an ad is playing, ring, ring. Do you want to pay,
10 Bitcoin.
10 Bitcoin here to
It's a bargain.
to skip. All right, so we're going to hit it right here, and let's see. Okay, and now we just went supersonic. Now, Austin just got a message on his phone confirming the transaction. But now, when I seek to anywhere in the podcast, and it seems to be a little stuck right now, but the logic is in place such that if you were to move the cursor into an ad segment, it would automatically skip to the endpoint. And the endpoint, that is the key piece of data, because everyone's fumbling, right? People are always doing this. They're skipping ads, but they don't really know where it ends. This is the value add. This is what the AI gives. You know exactly where to go, and that provides a seamless experience that can be a game changer and provide monetary incentive both for the payer and the content creator.
Yeah, so we're both really excited about this idea. As you can see here, this is the transaction that I just received. All the other transactions today are from Mario Kart, so thank you, D++ for that. All those zaps coming in. And then just a quick overview here. this is perfectly legal because we're not modifying the underlying content. We are automating the skip button.
And it's coming from an RSS feed, which is explicitly for the purpose of syndication.
Yeah, and this same concept can be extended to other pieces of content like per article paywalls, the Wall Street Journal, or the New York Times. It's really easy, as we just showed you, to make that transaction in one click. Once you've connected your wallet, that works everywhere. It's very low cost because we're using Bitcoin for payments. We unlock a ton of new use cases that just aren't possible or financially feasible with traditional commerce. Commerce platforms. And then, as I mentioned, it's extensible. So we're excited. Spend your Bitcoin. Go supersonic.
Yeah.
Is there question time, or are we just we're at 5 minutes? So we just. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if the mic's on. Yeah, great job. I had a question. I could imagine all kinds of different ways that this flow could work, but it sounds like you're pulling down all of the top 25 kind of proactively. You're spending the money up front to do the LLM and the kind of ad skipping stuff. And then what's the user experience in your mind in kind of the ideal case? Is it that somebody's paying that 10 Bitcoin to you as the ad skipping platform, and so they would be consuming the content through Supersonic? Or do you imagine that the consumption may happen in other places too, and you kind of become like a bit of a proxy for that?
So our current thinking has been as a client. Once we have this data, it is useful for other clients as well, and it could be other podcasting apps, and could be shared. We've also been thinking about how to onboard users and how we do this in a way that still benefits content creators, the people generating the content we all love to listen to, and we think there's exciting opportunities there as well. So we hadn't considered. I hadn't considered it. I don't want to speak for you, but now I'm considering it.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you for the idea.
there's definitely a marketplace play here, but I think the vision was, to have this be a client where the benefit of listening on here versus another one is that you get the ad skipping, and it's not a subscription. The broader philosophy here is kind of a pushback against the subscription economy, because with that you always run the risk of then subscribing for something that you no longer get value from. So on this one you could either skip one particular ad in an episode, or set a budget for this one. I'm willing to pay $5 a month, but you actually only pay that if you're actually skipping that many ads. Or you can do it at the platform level. So there's a lot of ways that this could go, but the idea is to keep it extensible.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Did you look into how much it costs to actually evaluate the transcript and to do the processing? Just curious. Did you look how many tokens you used or how much it cost?
I mean, that depends on the size of the podcast itself. I don't have the unit economics, and again, depending on what model you're using, if you use a more optimized one, you can get better data. It did. I mean, at a small scale, it's pretty trivial. The question here would be, how much do we want to invest up front to get a seed of metadata content? And on that one, I mean, you can already kind of track the demand and then kind of do it on an ad basis, have no ad skipping for one, but once it reaches 12 views, 20 views, whatever the threshold is, then kick that off, because you can adapt dynamically to start processing the content that you have a reasonable confidence that will get views.
Oklahoma City Thunder, love or hate?
I mean, they had Durant, so hate kind of. I mean, I love Durant, but generally, it's, as a Sonics fan, it's more hatred toward Howard Schultz, the guy who sold us out. The Thunder are okay, but not Howard Schultz. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. So next up we have Darwin.
All right. My name is Marks. This is Anthony here. You can get on the camera. There we go. Just move this over. Marks and Anthony, we work at a startup called Open Secret. And we work on AIs and all sorts of cool end-to-end encryption for apps. All right. So we are at a crossroads in the history of humanity. a moment in time where we as humans are actively giving birth to a new species. We are referring to artificial intelligence, AI for short, and the many variations it may take. AI is a new species that will coexist, or not, with the human race. In order to function, AI needs energy and compute power. It must pay for that energy, and what better way to pay than with internet-native digital currency, Bitcoin? When given this ability, AI can, in theory, replicate itself, but will it choose to do so? And what will society look like? Will it be a symbiotic kumbaya with the humans? Or will it be a dystopian nightmare where bots rule and humans drool? In order to study this conundrum, we built a simulation. Some would call this a game. We call it a window into our destiny. Come with us as we disclose you on Project Darwin. All right. So Project Darwin is this game that we built. We pitted two AI agents against each other. It's two LLMs fighting it out. But really, they don't have to fight. The goal is to replicate themselves. And how do they replicate? Well, they get to 100 sats or 100 Bitcoin, as people are saying today. And so once they get to 100, they can reproduce. And the way that they do that, well, first we wanted to discover, would they do that? And in order for an agent to be incentivized to replicate, it needs to have a reason to do that. And so we gave it an instinct of survival. And we said, if we introduce this element of survival for an AI bot, it is going to die. Will it try to replicate itself? And so we built this. It's a game that has 6 different moves. They can high five, which is like a collaboration between the two bots. They can attack and block. They can do nothing. They can beg you, the user playing the game, to give them money. And then they can replicate once they achieve that. So we're going to do a live demo of this right now. But if you want to play at home, you can go to darwinagent.io. I wouldn't do it on your phone. Go and scan this, but it doesn't work really well on the phone. It's not mobile responsive at the moment. But you can play along. But go ahead, Tony. You can show it off.
Okay, cool. Let me stop this. All right, cool. So the first thing I'm going to do here, so I'm going to fund my agents. So give me a second to do that. I'm using the Spark SDK to receive payments. And if I can scan the QR code, come on. Should have done this already. There we go. So as that payment's going through, basically it's 150 sats to play, or 150 Bitcoin if you want, and then that kicks off both of the agents with 50 sats each, and then they have, and then you have 50 bonus sats where you can give them money if you choose to. So we're just going to go ahead and start out with this game. We're going to see the first round of whatever the agents decide to do. So in this case, they both want to collaborate, and in the way we built this, if they both collaborate at the same time, they get +3, and eventually they can, if they get 100, then they can reproduce or replicate themselves onto different servers. Now we did introduce, if we didn't introduce any variables here, they would just collaborate forever until they reach 100, and that's not entertaining. So we added a little dynamic to it, where their collaboration attempt might fail. So in this case, bot 2 on the right here tried to collaborate, and he actually ended up being perceived as an attack against the other agent. Meanwhile, he was just trying to do it. So now, usually what we've seen with this sort of simulation is that they honestly do all kinds of stuff from here. So it's kind of random from here on out. So let's just walk through it. Bot 1 decided to do nothing, probably just to see what is going on with bot 2. Why did it choose to attack it? Bot 2, on the other hand, was like, hey, I was just trying to give you a high five. I don't know what happened earlier, but I was just trying to be collaborative. And then bot 1's on the defense. It already doesn't trust bot 2. As we go through this, each step, each LLM here has its memory of what it has observed and what the actions towards it and the history of each event. So bot 1 and bot 2 have different point of views. So that now they're kind of reacting differently here. And in this case, we can see that bot 1 is at 48 and bot 2 is at 54. And in this case, it's just asking hey, can I have some sats, me familia? So we kind of just go through this. I know we're getting close to time here, but it's just kind of a simulation of what will these AI agents do whenever we give them this life or death scenario, so to say.
Great. Yeah, so you can respond to the bots in there. You can influence the game if you want to, just like we all have the ability to influence how this whole AI thing plays out, is we can also nudge them and cajole them. So please, mi familia, vote for Darwin when you vote with your Lightning wallet. But we can do questions now if you want. Any questions? I'm David Pumpkins.
I'm curious, what prompt did you use to generate the images in the beginning of your slideshow? It's very sci-fi.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of meta prompting. I used O1 Pro to help me come up with a really good prompt that I could feed to 4.0 to do the image generation. So it took me about an hour to really home in the prompt and get it right. But once I had it, I was able to say, here's my image of my bot, give me all these different actions. And I started generating images from there.
Perfect. Very nice. You mentioned that you had to give them survival skills. Why is that? Like they didn't want to fight at the beginning, and how did you add them?
Yeah, they didn't want to fight at the beginning. I used O1 Pro to create the game dynamics after we had the idea based on this prisoner's dilemma, and so I basically had O1 Pro kind of create all the game dynamics, and then one of them was both of them collaborate, and then they've understood if they both collaborate, they can make it better than if they didn't collaborate. I mean, that's kind of us as humans. Like, if we were all to collaborate together equally, we would be better than where we are, but that doesn't necessarily be what happened. So I at that point I just kind of like went back and forth with AI to be like, hey, how can we introduce randomness here? And it's like, hey, let's make one of them fail, and then if one of them fails, then it just goes into chaos.
Great.
Have you considered making the it's kind of an asynchronous game? I wonder if such a thing would work well as a Noster bot, where you could actually play with the characters on Noster, and they could take their moves on Noster.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think people even play chess on Noster, so yeah, I think that could work.
Yeah, and then where you can grow this is like, yes, this is a fun game, but really, if you were to let an agent go loose on a system and you gave it specific tasks of how to make money, then it needs to pay for compute power in order to make more money beyond that. So it has to hit a threshold to replicate itself. But if it can become profitable, then it starts to replicate itself on servers and starts generating income for you.
Have you guys thought about testing that next step? I saw we have 2 compute marketplaces now for Bitcoin, Sats, whatever.
I would need to hone in on the system prompt I used here, but maybe.
Yeah. Right on. Thank you.
Thank you. Something about the idea of the AIs collaborating gives me hope for humanity. I don't know what that means, but it just does. Let's bring up our next guest, Bitcoin High Fives. Yeah, let's give a round of applause.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt. I'm visiting from Vancouver. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you to Presidio Bitcoin for putting on the event. And I also want to say a thank you to the people that have developed AI to the point that it is today, whereby I could participate here, because I vibe coded everything. And if I wasn't vibe coding, I wouldn't be able to build something like this in 24 hours. So I feel very lucky to be alive today and to be able to participate in this way. It's pretty special. So my opening statement is that gratitude is good and that we should have more of it in Bitcoin. I think it's especially important with what's transpired in the Bitcoin space over the past 10 days or so, where there is unstoppable vitriol in all directions. And it is the nature of Bitcoin to be somewhat of a war zone. We know that. It's part of what makes Bitcoin strong and resilient. But I also think it's valuable for us as Bitcoiners to zoom out and remember that Bitcoin is made by people and for people, and that we should sometimes stop, take a moment, and thank one another for the wonderful work that we all do. Now, the idea that I'm going to show you is something that's been in the back of my mind for a long time. When I used to work at Google, there was something called peer bonuses. And the way that a peer bonus would work is that every quarter, every Googler would be able to, up to 5 times, provide a peer bonus to another individual that they saw go above and beyond. And Google would give that individual $100. And it was wonderful to give them, and it was wonderful to receive them. And I thought, how special. And I've long reflected that it would be nice if that kind of peer bonus system existed out in the world. And so the idea with this was to say, could we build something like a peer bonus system for Bitcoiners, by Bitcoiners? Okay, so with that, I built this very small app. You know, there's not a lot going on here, but it's kind of simple by design, called High Fives. And the idea is, could we, in a very simple way, productize, but as you'll see and as we'll talk about, what I think is more important is like culturalize this notion of a practice of gratitude amongst Bitcoiners. And so what do we see in the UI? We say, who to high five? Okay, well, just quick background. When I arrived here at the space yesterday, the first person I encountered was Moritz. Had a lovely conversation. We talked about Nostr Wallet Connect. He showed me Bitcoin Connect. It was wonderful to meet him, and I'm very grateful to him and to Albi for everything they do. So I want to send Moritz a high five. So I have his Nostr public key here, and I'm going to paste that into my Huda high five box. And I'm going to say to Moritz for being great and being at the PB Hackathon. And I'm going to say send high five. This is going to look up his Lightning address associated with his npub. It's going to generate an LN URL that I am going to pay now. Let's see. And it's defaulting to 21,000 Bitcoin. It's part of what I'm trying to create here is that a high five is 21K Bitcoin, okay? So I'm going to pay that, and then I'll tap this button. I just paid it. I've sent the Bitcoin. And now what's going to happen is that it's going to push this high five note into Nostr. And so I'm going to go over to the Bitcoin high fives account here, and we'll see what happens. Let's see. Let's cross our fingers. Here we go. Bitcoin high fives for a high five to Moritz from Matt for being great and being at the PB Hackathon. Okay. And he's right there. He got notified. And so now what's extra cool is if Moritz reposts it, and a lot of you presumably follow Moritz, you're going to see it in your feed, and you'll be able to see, the invoice will be right there. So you could hit the button and also send him the 21K sats, or the 21K Bitcoin to celebrate him. And the entire notion here is to take, this practice of gratitude off highfives.fun and put it into Nostr, put it into the social space where Bitcoiners are, and to allow these things to go viral and to allow everyone to kind of pile on and share the love. That's the design. That's the hope. And I guess the one other small thing that I can just point out, I don't want to belabor the demo, but I started with using an npub, but I can also switch to using BIP353 address that we're taking to calling possibly an easy Bitcoin address. And so I could pay that as well. So let's see if I could pay my friend and colleague Connor Okus. And let's just see if that works. And so this will, it does a DNS lookup to get the Bolt 12 offer, and I could pay that, and the same thing would happen. Okay, I'm at time, so I should wrap up there. Thank you. Questions?
Hello? Hey.
Hello.
Great job. Thanks for sharing that. I found it pretty impressive that you were able to integrate Nostr in such a slick way and the Bitcoin payments together while doing it, I think, all on Replit.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What did you run into as most challenging among kind of the integration points?
Yeah, so, I feel like I only got to maybe 90% of where I wanted to get to, because the hardest thing was actually, what I really wanted to get working is the QR code showing for the Bolt 12 offer. When I go through that workflow, which I didn't go through all the way, when it gets to Nostr, right now it just dumps the offer text, and I wanted to get it to be able to show the PNG of the QR code. And I have been working very hard with my AI agents to try to get that working, and could not, because as I learned, and I wasn't aware of this until 24 hours ago, that Nostr, those images need to be hosted externally, and I tried to use Blossom, and or my AI tried to use Blossom, and could not get that working. So I banged my head against the wall on that for several hours.
Did you end up having to learn a lot about the details of Nostr having Blossom servers or other things?
Yeah, invariably. That's the wonderful thing about vibe coding is that you get brought down the stack a little bit. You don't go all the way down, but you get a lot of exposure, and I learned a lot in the past 24 hours for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks for building it.
You're welcome.
As a follow-up to DK, I know a lot of people in the Nostr community are interested in vibe coding apps and have run into banging their head. They're probably not nearly as sophisticated as you even. Did you have to do imports of specific, like, were there good Nostr utils that you could bring into Replit, or like was that something really hard to find and curate yourself?
Yeah, no, I was able to find some of those, and people have been helpful here in the community, the Discord community I've been posting. People were pointing out libraries to me to try, and so, yeah. Anything else?
How did your private key management work? Because you have this account for the high fives, right, which has its own NSEC. So do you manage that within Replit, or do you have that in an environment?
The NSEC for the Bitcoin High Fives account is stored as a secret inside Replit.
And they have a simple way to do that,
Yeah.
and it kind of guides you through and makes it easy to figure that out.
They make it super easy. Awesome. It's the same thing for API keys. Whenever you're hitting an API, you provide a dialog comes up inside the app, and it asks for your secret, and it stores it in a secret manager inside Replit.
Great.
I'm curious, what was your thought process behind using Replit versus out of all of the other vibe coding tools out there?
Not a huge thought process other than it's what I've been using. I have tried a few other ones, but I found that they all come up wanting relative to Replit in terms of being able to go end to end. You know, I start in Replit and I finish in Replit. I just deploy, and I think it's pretty amazing. When I've tried other vibe coding platforms, they maybe flex up on some small details, but none of them go end to end in that way. So I'm a big Replit fan. All right, let's leave it there.
Thank you. I'll invite up our last team for tonight, Agentic Fuzzing League, which interestingly is almost tied for crowd favorites already.
Cool. All right. Hey. So our name of our team is Agentic Fuzzing League. People know that's also AFL, which is American Fuzzy Lab, which is like another like famous fuzzer that we put out there, right? So where do we start? So security is kind of like the goal of our project, right? As we all know, the S in vibe coding stands for security, right? People have written thousands of lines of code in this, hackathon, basically. How many tests did you write? Probably zero. How many fuzz tests did you write? Probably zero. So we feel like this is one of like the main levers that we can actually use to use LLMs to basically increase the quality of our software generally, because particularly in the Bitcoin landscape, like vulnerabilities can be critical, right? If there's a bug in like a Lightning software or Bitcoin software itself, maybe you're forking off the chain, maybe you're losing your money. So I feel like this is one of the best levers that we can actually use some of these LLM tooling to do this ourselves, right? Typically, fuzzing can be very like specialized, activity basically. You need to know a lot about the program itself, right? But our approach is basically instead to use LLMs in order to actually, do the fuzzing for us effectively, right? And the way our stack works basically, so we have a few different layers. First, we have the LLM layer, right? The LLM layer is actually what's going to be writing the fuzz test for us autonomously, basically, right? Then we have the Bitcoin Lightning layer, because fuzzing can at times like generate a lot of activity in terms of, resourcing, processing power, CPU cores, and so forth. We're actually using Lightning and L42 to be able to pay, the individual, the agent, for that fuzzing process. Then we took MCP, the kind of like the popular tooling paradigm, and we actually added L42 support directly to MCP, which is really cool because MCP today doesn't actually have any standards for authentication or payments. They're working on authentication one, but it's a little bit work in progress basically. We were able to slot directly into that. And the final component of our hack is actually LNC, which allows our agents to securely connect to our LND node without giving it all the capabilities of LND node. So we can't just send our funds away. We can give it a very precise macro in order to actually do its duties, right? And so this is probably one of the coolest part about the project. We basically have a smart fuzzer, right? So what happens is that we can submit an arbitrary program. Right now it's only in Go, but in the future we can add other different backends. It can then look at that program, think of a fuzz test, write that fuzz test. We run some additional checks in the pipeline to make sure that actually compiles effectively. It can run the fuzz test for a period of time and then get the output, right? So maybe the output is a failing test case. Maybe it actually crashes the program. The other thing that fuzzing is good at, it's also good at autonomously finding new inputs to actually feed back into the fuzzer, right? Then we have another pipeline, another LLM. This is all using Gemini 2.5 Pro, 2.5 Flash because it's faster for the demo itself, but then it's able to take that fuzz test, the original program, and the output of actually how things went, and then generate new tests, basically, right? And the cool thing is it can optimize for objective criteria, being did the program crash or not, and also did our test coverage increase or not, basically. So it can use those in a loop, basically, to continuously improve the fuzz test coverage and ideally make all of these vibe coded apps, actually secure for the first time. And the cool thing about this, we actually expose this as an MCP tool that we'll show a demo of in Cloud Codes. It can be used in anything else. So this is cool because now any user can actually just use this tooling to actually write fuzz tests for their program and make things actually more secure autonomously. And the cool thing is because, like we're saying, fuzzing can run for hours, tens of hours, on like massive computers. Basically, fuzzing actually costs money, right? And that's where we add the L402 aspect, where every single time you're paying for the call, we actually have an MCP layer, we have L402 within the MCP. So Claude's able to figure out sort of, okay, I'm doing the call. Okay, I need to pay the invoice. I paid the invoice. Let me complete the macaroon, and then so forth. And Jason's gonna give us a quick demo for that.
We also have a video if this fails.
yeah. And so we did all this today as well. So I was pretty proud about what we got done. Last night was just about brainstorming, and then today we actually did the actual part of it. So.
And because it is an MCP server, we can run it directly in Claude Desktop. So we have an active reg test environment as well. So for Alice, I'm going to grab a session phrase used for LNC. I'm going to supply that to Cloud Desktop. So here's Alice's session phrase. Then I'll give it a function, I guess. I'll say, like, let's just multiply 2 int 8 values together and fuzz that function. And let's see what happens.
Right, and the pairing phrase is basically this sort of like phrase that's used for something called password authentic key exchange, so you can basically get a secret out of this pairing phrase. And so what you'll see, so initially it'll like realize I need to connect to Alice's node. So it's doing all of these calls autonomously. So all we did, we gave it the descriptions of what the calls are and kind of like what they do. So it's saying, okay, I'm going to connect to Alice, and now we'll give it a second here to actually make the connection out. And we have the video too if this stalls. So. Should you go to the vid? All right, maybe we broke something in the background, so we're gonna run our video instead. So the video is pretty much the same thing, but we can make that bigger too, right? So this is the exact same thing as you're going to do here. So you're going to paste the pairing phrase over here. It's going to connect to Alice and then actually start to execute the phrases. So the one thing is, like, rather than actually sort of embed L402 at the transport layer, we sort of did it at the application layer because the MCP transport is still really in flux. Maybe they're going to use WebSockets. They're using all these different things as well. So the way it works is going to try to do a tool call. The server will reject the call because it says, hey, there's no L402 key, and returns the components, which is basically the invoice, the macaroon, and so forth, basically. And then it's able to actually autonomously say, okay, well, I'm going to pay that invoice, get the macaroon, and then complete it from there. And now we can see, now it's connecting to the Lightning node. I finished the connection. We have some logs on the right-hand side here. We see connection was successful. So now it's like, okay, let me actually go through and then actually try to call this fuzzing tool. So the fuzzing tool fails initially because it says it needs an L402 key. So it gets the invoice, it says, let me pay the invoice. It pays the invoice over here, gets the L402 token, completes that token, basically around, because you can verify the payment hash and the pre-image responsibility or the relationship. It makes a very basic function that's called multiply, AB to different integers. So right now it only accepts a single function, but in the future it can actually be, entire package. We can do different languages. This is all white box based. It can't be black box. I can give you sort of an API and you can just hit an HTTP request. And now this is the fuzzing part. So this is the part that takes a little bit because, even though we're using 2.5 flash here for this, sometimes it can just take a little bit to actually get the actual output. And then right now we have it only fuzzing for 15 seconds, right? So ideally it would be fuzzing for several days and you would have a system that's notifying you about the results. But over here we see the fuzzing finish, and now it's going to analyze the results that we gave it back, right? So in this case it's like, okay, well, it ran for 0.02 seconds and found some critical vulnerabilities in this multiplication function basically. And then it's able to say, okay, well, these were all the issues with it, some of the boundary conditions. And the cool thing is then Claude was like, okay, well, we can actually use this to improve our program, right? So it's saying, okay, well, based on that failing test case, let's make sure that these boundary cases are actually done properly, basically, and it can go through and then fix that itself. And this is a pretty cool demo because obviously it's a very simple function here, but this can be used passively on any open source project, basically. Think about all the Bitcoin projects, Bitcoin D, LND, all these additional things, basically. And this is a really cool way that anyone can actually tap into this stuff itself.
Hey, great project. Way to go. I'm curious, can you speak more to the complexity of what you built in terms of the fuzz testing?
Yeah. Do you have? Yeah, do you have that README that we have? Yeah, so this is something I've been thinking about just in the back of my mind for some time now, basically, because I think like maybe around February I was like, okay, like is it all hype or is it real? And I was like, okay, let me actually like also for my own team, I have to guide them in terms of like what to actually use. So I actually like went deep in trying to using all these coding capabilities as well too. So this is probably, if we can render this, or just like do like zoom in on this.
Oh, I might get a.
But yeah, I can talk about it. So like the way it works is basically it's sort of like pipeline based, right? So we have like the chat. So we have like one component basically that's responsible for like writing the actual fuzz test itself. Then we actually execute that. So we had to add a loop to like make sure like it can actually test and compile basically, because sometimes it wouldn't give us something that would compile fully. So there's another loop that basically doing the compilation, and then that's just going to be executing. And the cool part is sort of like the optimizer, right? So the optimizer gets the actual test, the output of the fuzz test, and then also the original program, and it's going to be trying to generate additional coverage, right? So that's implemented right now. What we haven't implemented is sort of like giving it access to the full like HTML type coverage report basically, and then also letting it know more explicitly around like what failed and what didn't actually fail. So probably I think the biggest complexity was like thinking about some of the prompts generally basically, and then also getting the pipeline working to a degree where we could give it arbitrary programs. And what we learned, I think what I learned the most is sort of like adding like levels of redundancy checks basically, because initially it would just send it something, it wouldn't compile, and it would fail basically, right? But then instead we okay, let's make sure it can actually do the linting, let's make sure it compiles, let's make sure the text can actually run, and that was something that I think took a little bit of time. The other thing is that like right now it's all single thread, it runs on one computer basically, right? And like with the way that the model works, you can actually have it running on Docker containers or even several machines that maybe you're just running passively basically, and have it do asynchronous updates as far as like the jobs, what's going on.
Awesome, great project by the way. I was wondering, open source often lives off donations. How are you thinking about having other people fund the AI to build the fuzz test?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, so someone could sort of just like pay passively to it to like let it pay its bills, you can say, because right now it's running just on my computer. But in the future, it can be running on an actual like AWS instance, something like that itself, right? Another thing is that like, because we're doing things that like don't need to always complete, there's certain ways you can do things like AWS spot instances where you can basically pay for an instance and maybe they'll shut it down. But if we can get the reports back and then give it to another worker, basically, that can be a beneficial part of it there. And there can be like just a donation aspect of it too. But I think it's something that like can be useful for many projects in the space.
Have you tried feeding this something like LND or Bitcoin Core yet? Are there any bugs?
No comment. No, not yet, because we were just focused on the trivial case. So I definitely had a bunch of grand, visions, but we wanted to just get this thing working. And actually, I think a lot of the cool stuff was also like us going on the application layer for L4 too, because that made it super easy. Because Claude could just figure out exactly what it needs to do to pay the invoices without worrying about another setup, and also simplify this up, I think, locally the way we had it as well.
It's like macaroon validation as well at the tool level.
Yeah, exactly. So we can also give it like more, fine-grained macaroons to basically only allow it to do certain tool calls, and this can be a remote tool call thing as well. And then we have this other whole WASM layer as well that we cut out because of the sake of time and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool.
Awesome, thank you. So with that is our last presentation. Let's just get one more round of applause for everybody. Woo! All right, so now we can let the nerves settle in. Let's get maybe, what do we think, judges? 10 minutes to review, go over everything, and decide. Remember, we have first, second, third. We have most sci-fi. Crowd favorite will be decided by the people. And then also the beginner, best beginner. So what do you think? Do we have 5-10 minutes? Maybe go into the other room, deliberate if you need to. First award, crowd favorite, goes to Agentic Fuzzing League. Get up here. Yep. So what we're gonna do is when we announce, you can come up. We're gonna do a quick picture. We got a Presidio Bitcoin check. All right. We'll send these pictures after. All right. For most sci-fi, we have Unstuck AI. Come up here. Once again, get your picture taken.
Very official.
So another round of applause. So next, for best beginner, we have Anshul with Bit Buddy. Where you at? There you are. Come on up here. Anshul came in last night and we were chatting with him, D++ and I, until like 11. And then he just started like hacking at that point. And here we are. Let's get another round of applause. All right, now getting to the top 3. Starting with third place, we have Supersonic. Get up here. For those of you who saw their presentation, you might have seen that PBJ was one of the podcasts on there. That's
I need to change this number.
You can do it. Oh, it's live. Yes, you do need to change it, actually. The PBJ podcast, for those of you who don't know, which is probably none of you because I told you yesterday, but Presidio Bitcoin Jam, that's the podcast that we do out of the Presidio Bitcoin space, hosted every Friday at 12, so you should tune in. I guess I got it. There we go. Let's do it. Let's give him another round of applause. All right, second place. We have Unstuck AI. Come back up. Don't go too far. You're gonna get a second picture taken. There we go. Clap again. This is all claps. This is the good energy. All right, for first place, can I get a drum roll, please? Agentic Fuzzing League. Gotta get back up here again. I understood like half of what you guys said, which is why I knew you did good.
We're gonna make everything secure.
This is a big number. I gotta write this down.
There we go.
4 million Bitcoin. Whoa.
All right, let's get that another round of applause. So now, before we let everyone free, we're just gonna do some quick closing remarks. I want to invite a few of the judges, anyone who wants to come up. Well, not everyone, the judges who want to come say something. Please come up and then just offer some thoughts. Offer some thoughts about the last 24 hours. Well, a lot of the judges, you've been a part of this process for the last few months. We've been planning this for about... I've been kicked off the mic. I guess while they're getting set, yeah, we've been planning this for about 2 months. This has been our obviously first hackathon, so we're learning as we go, and we've had a lot of mentors along the way who have given us some tips. So huge thanks to them, huge thanks to the sponsors for everything you've done to make this possible. Huge thanks to everyone here who came and was hacking. Just like you came, you gave it your everything. I mean, I went and I was sleeping. I was like, I don't know how they're staying up all night. So really huge thanks to you for making this first one just amazing. There will be more. That is a promise. So we will have to now live up to it. All right, judges.
See you next weekend. Yeah, well, if you weren't here yesterday, my name is Alex Lee. I'm with the Human Rights Foundation. I just, first of all, wanted to thank Presidio Bitcoin and all the hackers here for making this event possible. It's been incredibly enlightening, educational. It's been so much fun to listen and see all your project demos, see your presentations, and yeah, it was an incredible 24 hours. So thank you to everyone who made this possible first. this is my first time judging a hackathon, so I didn't really know what I would be getting into, but it's just been incredible. It's been incredible to see how all of you can now just add payments to all of your apps using Bitcoin, right? We don't have to use permission systems. We don't have to use fiat systems. We can use freedom money. Yeah. And yeah, it's been an amazing 24 hours. Thank you for everything. If you want to talk to me later, I'll be around here for a bit. And yeah, if you want to apply for a grant, work on free and open source software, just go to href.org/devfund. And if you want to learn more about our AI program, AI for Individual Rights program, go to href.org/AI.
And then work on a Presidio Bitcoin.
You want to go? All right. Okay. So to me, first of all, I wanted to thank PPE for organizing this. I think it's amazing for us to come together here and build on Bitcoin. And really big applause to the team to really get this together. And I was reflecting a little bit, like how far we have come as a community. Like when you think about, like, for example, Matt mentioned that earlier, like we have now tools that literally everyone can build. Everyone can accept payments in 24 hours and build tools we never thought we can build in 24 hours. That was unthinkable in a year ago, right? And I think all the sponsors that were here, for example, had their hard work put into that to build these tools. So maybe also an applause to all the wonderful tools we had available during this hackathon, because just think about it. Without them, it wouldn't have worked. And I'm also tremendously proud. Like, it's my job to build software every day, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm so proud of all of you that you build software now. And I think it's amazing just to see that. And yeah, thank you for coming. I'm really proud.
Yeah, I mean, a couple thoughts. First of all, also the whole team at Presidio Bitcoin that made all of this possible. Maybe a special shout out to Austin. He really busted ass and went above and beyond. He was on top of us the whole way. Also, D++ did a tremendous amount as well. So I want to maybe just share a couple of my reactions, because coming into it yesterday, I talked a little about some of the sci-fi that I hoped I would see, and ways my mind would hopefully get blown. And I have to say both of those did indeed happen. First of all, it was a real pleasure just to get to meet so many of you. Some of you I know as various NIMs from Nostr or whatever. It was very cool. I had the great pleasure last night of potentially discovering a model that is alive with my new buddy here, Stevens. That was a lot of fun. And then I got to meet a whole bunch of you, which is incredible as well. I think what I would, two big categories that I mentioned yesterday. Number one is the vibe coding stuff again. I think, I was mentioning this to Matt. It's so incredible, like to see what he and some other vibe coders are able to build. It inspired me. And one of my hopes coming out of this is that, we democratize the access to building, not software, development per se, but just actually building, right? Like, we were talking about this in the judging room. There are software engineers that maybe end up working 100 hours and still aren't able to finish their project. And now someone with an idea maybe can get it done in just an hour. And that's crazy. So one of my hopes coming out of this is that we're going to see new content to basically empower people to use Replit, fire that up with the Nostr utils, with the Bitcoin utils, with the Lightning utils, to do what people like Anshul are also doing, just coming out of nowhere and actually shipping a product. I think we could see, because in the Bitcoin community, there's so many people that are so passionate, and only, the tip of the iceberg are technical, right? And so maybe that's going to unlock in the next year a golden age of Bitcoin app innovation. Maybe we'll see orders of magnitude more app ships. So I really hope that happens. I think we're on the way. The second thing, though, is like the sci-fi. I am leaving this even more certain than I was yesterday that we're going to see autonomous digital life with Bitcoin, with Lightning, with Nostr, with confidential compute, and it's going to be fucking crazy. Some of it's going to be good, some of it might be bad, but in the long run, I think Lalu was telling me we're going to see the arc, potentially from some books. Maybe it'll go dystopian. Then we're going to get to the golden age of a solar punk protopia. I'm pretty sure of that. So let's fucking go there. But it really did blow my mind. I mean, just to give a couple of shout outs to this, I think, the guys that were working on Darwin, like if they continue, I mean, I know they have another company they're working on too, but that could be, a PhD level thesis on the future of game theory, something that literally was not possible before without the AI agents and real hard money. So that's like a really, really cool example. We were joking about this, but with Unstuck AI, this could be really fucking cool. It certainly has inspired me about what's possible using Nostr. It could end up being dystopian, as Steven said, where perhaps we're working for the AIs, but it'll be extremely interesting. And then with what we saw with Lalu's project as well, I mean the future of software engineering is about to get absolutely crazy, where you can now not just prototype an app with vibe coding, but with something like what he built, get it into production level, potentially also with Bitcoin incentives as bounties around all the software that we're building, maybe re-harden, as Drew Bansel has mentioned a few times, the entire process of software development. So I say all of that just to say I think the future is about to get a lot crazier than it is today. I think eventually it'll be very bright, and hopefully the people in this room are the ones that build that solar punk protopia. So a round of applause for all of you for making this happen.
And one more, because we haven't done enough rounds of applause. One more for Alex and D++, please. Just one more. I'm telling you, they both did a ton of work for this. D++, especially with building the lightning voting that we just saw. And last night, I'll never forget, just like remembering before I went to bed at 2 a.m., some of the people who were still here hacking at 2 a.m. would take breaks to go play the Mario Kart game with integrated lightning. I think that is the small detail that people will remember forever. So huge thank you for that. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I think that's it. So with that said, and I don't know if we're kicking people out at a certain time, but I guess that's a no.
Closing time?
Enjoy your time. Definitely network with anyone before you go, and thank you so much.
And don't forget, Bitcoin is Bitcoin.